I've been a denizen of the dawn for a decade now, sitting solitary on the worn, wood-bitten pier before the canvas of the sky is painted with the first brushstrokes of sunlight. It is a quiet, personal ritual, a part of my existence that became ingrained since the sea claimed my love. The waves, lapping against the pier in a rhythmic lullaby, are my only company in these quiet hours. On this particular morning, the same as any other, I notice him again, Benny. He's been a regular fixture at the port for as long as I have, a stripling with a head full of dreams and a heart weighed down by fear. He carries an aura of the sea, the salt and the wind tangling in his tousled hair, his eyes holding the expanse of the horizon. "Benny," I call out, my voice rippling across the morning quiet. He turns, the corners of his lips curling up in a small, hesitant smile. He walks over, his steps tentative, as if he fears startling the slumbering sea. "I didn't expect to see you here so early, Elijah," he says, his voice barely louder than a whisper, the words dusted with uncertainty. He reminds me so much of myself at his age, wide-eyed, eager, and fearful of the vastness before him. "I could say the same about you," I reply, my gaze fixed on the boundless stretch of water. The conversation hangs in the quiet morning air, a silent understanding passing between us. Benny watches the sea with a longing that resonates in my old heart. I see the raw, unmasked yearning in the way he stares at the horizon, and yet, the sight of the waves induces a tremble in his hands that he attempts to hide. It's a strange dichotomy, the call of the sea battling his fear, one that springs from a place of profound loss. The sea, in all her tempestuous beauty, has taken his mother, much like it did my wife. As the sun begins to peek over the horizon, casting a warm, orange hue on everything, I make a decision. I see my past echoed in Benny's present, and it sparks a kind of kinship. A desire to see him navigate his fears and brave the open waters is kindled within me. Little does Benny know, as he shares his stories of the sea and his dreams, he's set us on a course that will change us forever. As the days pass, Benny and I grow familiar with our silent companionship on the pier. Each morning, we watch the daybreak, the sun slowly unfolding its hues over the great expanse of the sea, our conversations drifting with the salt-kissed breeze. One such morning, Benny breaks the silence with a confession, his voice quivering, mirroring the trembling waves. "You know, my mother, she died at sea," he says, his gaze locked on the horizon. His voice carries a certain heaviness, a deep-rooted sadness echoed in the quiet lull of the waves. His words take me back to my own loss, to the day the sea swallowed my love. My wife, Marianne, her laughter as infectious as the sea breeze, her spirit as boundless as the ocean itself, was taken from me by the very entity she adored. I feel Benny's pain resonating in the hollow cavity of my own heart. "I'm sorry, Benny. I understand how it feels," I confess, my words falling into the silence that stretches between us. I look at him, his youthful face marred by the shadow of a loss too great. "My wife, she too, was taken by the sea." I let my words linger in the air, a confession I hadn't voiced in years. Benny turns to look at me, his eyes wide and filled with a sudden understanding. With that confession, the line between us blurs, our shared tragedy tying us in an invisible bond. As we watch the sea, her waves gentle in the soft morning light, I can't help but feel a deep sense of kinship with Benny. His fears, his dreams, his loss, they all mirror my own past. In that moment, a resolution solidifies within me. I feel an overwhelming desire to guide Benny, to help him navigate his fear, just as I had once navigated my own. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, casting long shadows on the pier, I make a silent promise to myself, to be there for Benny, to help him realize his dream, and perhaps, in the process, find a way to heal our shared wounds. The Sea Serpent the legendary ship that Benny had spoken of with such reverence, was docked in the harbor. Majestic and formidable, it loomed large in the early morning fog, an embodiment of Benny's dreams and fears. My heart pounded with anticipation and trepidation as I strode toward the towering vessel, my mind filled with thoughts of Benny and our shared stories. Through a combination of old favors and the willingness to step into the fray once more, I had secured a position as the ship's cook. The wooden planks beneath my feet creaked in time with my heartbeat as I climbed aboard. The ship was still unfamiliar, the smell of salt and wood, the noise of the bustling crew, and the vast expanse of the deck, they all felt foreign yet strangely welcoming. It was as though the ship and the sea were calling me back, reminding me of a part of myself I had left behind. "Benny," I called out when I spotted him near the prow, lost in his thoughts. His head whipped around in surprise, eyes wide and mouth agape. He seemed taken aback as he looked at me, standing there in the cook's apron, a knowing smile on my face. "Elijah, what are you doing here?" His voice wavered between disbelief and joy. "I think it's time we braved the sea, Benny," I replied, my voice filled with a determination that had been dormant for too long. His eyes gleamed with a mixture of surprise, delight, and a touch of the fear that had been his constant companion. As the Sea Serpent gradually came to life around us, the sails billowing in the crisp morning air, and the crew bustling about, I knew that a significant part of our journey had just begun. With the familiar taste of salt on my lips and the sight of the sprawling sea before us, I felt an undeniable sense of purpose, one that would forever bind Benny and me in our shared journey against fear and towards acceptance.